All right, so here we get started here. I love their manuals. So we're gonna go over some of the main building steps that I take to build this. Some of it I'm just gonna speed through it. You're not gonna need me to put every single screw in kind of deal, but anything that I highlight, I will kind of go into more detail about. So maybe about how many shims I use, how do I know when I feel like it's shimmed right, you know, maybe centering servos or anything like that. I might go through some of that stuff, but we'll get started here in a second. The first thing we're going to be doing is putting our control rod, tail control rod together. And what we're going to be doing is taking the carbon rod and the threaded rods and glue them together. Leave about 13 millimeters on each end, and then we'll also glue in the aluminum caps or bushings that go on the ends to kind of keep from the ends splitting. So we'll get that started shortly. All right, here, so tail control rod. And one of the things about, if this is your first SAB kit, you're gonna notice that you're gonna have tons of plastic bags. All right, so we're looking for a bag for page 5. And let's get some of these. So there's 30s, 20s, 15s. Do a little organization. Let's go for that. Okay. All right, so 5. And I have page 6 and 7 as well for the next couple steps. So for 5 here, carbon rod assembly, you're gonna have your 2 threaded ends and then your 2 aluminum bushings, or what I call end caps. And what we're gonna do is, in instructions it says CA glue. I don't have CA. I do have some slow 30-minute epoxy, so I'm just gonna use that. So I'll mix a little bit up here. This is way too much. I'm gonna need only like a little glob of this, but whatever. Let's mix up some epoxy here. Now, pretty much any kind of CA or adhesive, you want to leave it overnight, really. That's the best way to make sure there's a full cure is done on it. So get your calipers out. Okay, you can reset and get to 13 millimeters. And it doesn't have to be exact, but you know, as close as possible, right? All right. And I'll get that tightened down so it's marked. So what I usually do is I just kind of dip the end in, and then I kind of use, kind of try to stick some of that glue in there, and then I twist it in there. Now some of these are really tight fit, some of them are not. Also, I probably would recommend getting some type of paper towel just to clean off that end. I'm just going to use the plastic bag for now because I didn't get any paper towel in advance, but that should do the trick. Smear that off. I want to get about that 13, so got to move that in more. Okay. When I'm working with 30-minute epoxy, I have quite a bit of time to kind of set things in. All right, so that's about it. Perfect right there. Okay. And then what I like to do is take my mixing stick here and just kind of guide the corner or the edge to get a bit of the epoxy on there. And I'll take my end cap here and slide it in. Make sure that goes in. Slide that in. Okay. Wipe off the excess again. It'll be on the bottom this time. And then measure one more time, make sure that we're good. See, with that end in, it's actually a little bit short, so I'm just gonna hold onto the threads and just kind of roll the thing out. Make sure this is staying down. Oh, see, this is what happens. Pull too hard. Okay, get that back in. And I think about there. Make sure this is all the way in. All right, we're back to 13. just shy of it. Possible. All right, so for the other end, same thing. Get a dab of glue, kind of get it in that hole a little, and then squish some more in. Okay. Now you might feel some pressure because this side is creating a seal, and you're actually kind of vacuum locking it. You want to twist, try to get, if there's like an air bubble thing, cut out of it. And I think that's about where I want to be. Okay. Now with that glob, okay, see if you can see that glob of epoxy, I'm just going to use that to seal up this bushing, aluminum bushing or end cap. Give it a little twirl around, make sure that that epoxy kind of gets all over there. And then normally I'll do this for paper towel, but I'll just show with clear plastic too. You can just kind of roll that epoxy off at the end. Kind of roll and kind of flatten that out. All right, and we're going to leave this aside. With this, so when we know that this is fully cured, then this will be fully cured as well. So I'm going to leave it on top of the box back here, kind of out of frame, and we'll kind of visit this later on. All right, we'll move on to the next page, page 6, where we're going to start building the main shaft, the transmission assembly, and also the transmission plate together. Now, you know, a lot of times people ask me, you know, how do I build my kit so quickly? How do I get through these things? Like, you know, obviously goblins, I think really they kind of go together fairly easy, fairly quickly. The instructions are very clear and concise, so there's not a lot of questioning what to do. One of the things that I like to do is, just like what I'm doing right now, is taking everything out of the bag in order and laying them out. So each bag and the screws stay with each component separately. And then I usually take all these bags. I'll take one small bag and I'll use that as a Loctite little tray. You know, no need to waste you know, a cup or something. I don't know what else you use to keep Loctite on, but this works well for me. And then, you know, basically start getting your tools out and start building it. So main shaft assembly, just be mindful there is offset bolts on the top holes here. Okay, this is going to be your top of your main shaft, while you have your double holes for your for main shaft lock, and then you have your single bolt hole at the bottom for your main gear, your main pulley. So what we're going to do here is we're going to slide on the shaft, your main shaft lock. I'm going to use some blue Loctite and, you know, just dab the front of the screw in, and then line up these holes and start and get that going here. So got the hole right there. Here's one. Okay, I'm going to start screwing that in by hand. We'll get the other one, and you'll notice that this is an offset. There's one going one way and one going the other way. This will keep it nice and balanced, and then we'll give it a nice hand tight. Let the Loctite do the work. You know, just want to give a little pressure at the end when you're screwing it in. So like about, this is hand tight, and then I'd say, you know, a little snug after that, and that's really all you need. There's some Loctite that might come out the other end. I often put more Loctite than I need to. To me, I'd rather not fall apart. Okay, so this is where we're going to start experimenting, and the best way to do this is to really take this assembly, make sure you have the assembly the right way. You'll see that the bearing is pushed in from this top panel here compared to the lipped bottom there, and you want to make sure that you have this the right way. So I'm going to put this on, line it up. I'm actually going to screw this in and feel for the play. Now you want to be, I'm not putting Loctite on this right now because I'm going to take these all apart and Loctite them once I've confirmed what shims I'm going to be using. But you do want to hand tighten these down, so that way you're getting the proper clearance setup. So, okay, I don't know if you can tell, but there is just a hair of play. So out, in, out, in, out. Very hard to tell. I can feel it. So I'm gonna try one shim and see how that goes. I hope this comprehensive type of build helps people. I think the Goblin 500 kit would be a great, you know, next step kit, you know, like the 420. I think we've spoken about the 420 in podcasts and other places, that it would make a good first kit build heli. But I think this would also make a good kit build heli as well. The Goblin 500 was one of my favorite helicopters. It's the one that I guess got me comfortable into bigger helis, even though this is not really considered a big heli compared to a 600 or 700. But overall, that the feel of it, the flight performance, and the envelope was of a bigger size heli, and it felt good, you know. All right, so here we go. No play. I can't move this without moving everything, and it still spins very freely, which is the goal you want. You don't want this to be binding on the bearing races for it being too tight. It's gonna get, you know, G forces going up and down already on the bearings, and you don't want to induce some preload in there. So this, in my opinion, is great with just one shim. I'm gonna now loosen all of these first, and then I'm gonna take out the last one, Loctite it, and go around and Loctite all of them. The reason I loosen all of them is obviously so that I know that that one was not tightened down. When I tighten it, I will give it a little hand tight, do all 3 screws with Loctite, and then I will go back for a final torquing of the bolts. Alright, just a little smidge of Loctite. This overall thing will be bolted into the transmission plate, so but let's make sure it doesn't back out. Give it a nice snug. All right. Next we have is the transmission plate here, and we're gonna first mount our main shaft assembly. Okay. So if you look at the way it's orientated, you'll see that there's 4 holes in the back, and then we're gonna mount this. Now I don't think it actually matters if it's turned by 100, you know, I don't know, 120 degrees, it looks like. Yeah. I'm gonna turn it to here where SAB is written on it, just like the way it looks in the picture. So we're gonna take this, we'll take the 3 screws here. I'm gonna immediately put Loctite on it and put one of them in to start getting the alignment going. I'm not gonna tighten it all the way, just gonna tighten it a little. We'll get the other 2 screws in as well. And the last one, and this is all right now loose because I want to make sure I get all the screws in the holes first without cross threading or anything, and then when I get to the last one, I'll start tightening them down in a pattern. I'm just gonna go clockwise pattern, just go finger tight. Okay, and then when you're at the last one, then I'm gonna give it a little quarter turn snug, not even a quarter turn, maybe like an 1/8 of a turn. Okay, we'll take our serial number plate and we'll also get that mounted. Serial mounted plate, sometimes I don't put the Loctite on it depending on the model. If it's a Goblin 580, the plate goes on the side. I don't actually Loctite it because I'm worried that I won't be able to get the 1.5 mil bolt out. For this, since it goes on a plate like this, which I love, nice clean look, I don't mind. I'll Loctite it. I don't think I'll ever need to remove that. All right, and we're gonna finish this off with the back clamp mount. Now just be mindful of the orientation of the clamp mount. You'll see that it's stepped and it steps downwards. This is where your fly bars mount place. This is where your transmission, your boom support mounts to. So this goes on the bottom like this, and it'll create that even more of a step with that plate there. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get all of these. These are now 2mm bolts, so I'll get them started by hand with Loctite. All right. Get the 2mm driver out. Okay, and Loctite across the board. Okay, keep it all loose so that way you can get every bolt in with zero issues of alignment. No cross threading. You don't want to cross thread any bolts. If you cross thread it, the one time you get them in, it's the last time you get them in. All right, and then just from the middle, I'm going to work my way out. So middle right, middle left, and I'll switch to the outer right, outer left. Okay, and then just give them one final snug down, make sure they're good. I just, always fear a helicopter falling apart in the air, so I'd rather go on the side of caution. All right, for our bag, for page number 7, we're gonna start putting our one-way, our main pulley and our one-way front pulley, tail pulley assembly together. And this again will require some shims. This is all pre-built, so the bearing, the one-way in there, and then the other bearing. This is all also Loctite and pre-assembled, so you don't need to worry about that. The only thing we need to worry about is basically putting this on and then seeing if we have any. So there's a shim here. You get 2 shims as well, and you want to see if there's any play in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this here. I'm gonna slide this up into the sleeve here, and there is a cutaway and a hole and everything, so you kind of see that it's like that. Okay, and now I'm gonna put this with the bolts on the bottom. So the long side sticking out is gonna be going towards the gear. All right, and then I'm gonna put this collar on. Let me put this bushing on as well into the main shaft, and this whole assembly is gonna go on. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the bolt in here. And right, let's get that lined up. All right, and just push that through. And then I'm gonna see if there's any play in any of the shafts here, because if you have play, you can put a shim in between here. And I don't feel any play. Maybe, yeah. I think a hair. I could feel it just shift up just a bit. Yes, I can definitely feel it shift up just a hair. So I'm gonna put 1 shim in. So let's take this off, pull the collar off. Right, we're gonna put this shim on, and then we're gonna put this back on as well, and we'll put the screw back in. All right, and again we'll feel. Oh yeah, nothing, no movement. That's 1 shim. Okay, and I'm gonna put this on. Now, it does require some grease. So I'm gonna pop this apart here. Let's get a little bit of grease on here. We'll go from there. So, okay, So the first thing we need is we need a little bit of grease between the shaft and the one-way collar. Okay, so here's some freewheel bearing grease. What I want to do first, just give this one a wipe down. Not really dirty, but just put a little bit of grease on there. Alright, and then put this assembly in. And then we'll put some grease on this shaft as well. Okay, just a little skim coat. And let's put this all back together here. We still have that brass bushing. We're gonna slide this whole assembly in. And we're gonna start feeding our bolt through the hole until we get it lined up. We'll get our nut on the other side. And let's just make sure that nut seats in properly. And we'll tighten it all the way up. Okay, give it a little snug, not too tight. Alright, this should spin freely. Okay, the shaft should spin freely from your one way, but this should be locked. Alright. Okay, move on to the servo mounts. We'll get the servo mounted. Alright. So this is requiring green Loctite. And you know, if it requires green, we should use green. One thing to notice about the anti-rotation bracket is that it's curved. There's a curved bevel to this. Okay, that's the part where the swash is going to go up and down, and it's curved on purpose to follow the arcing motion of the swash. So when this gets mounted, let's just make sure you mount the arcing side facing inwards and the flat side on the outside. Okay, and we're going to bolt this in with green Loctite. How do I apply green Loctite, especially going through plastic or this Darren type material? What I actually do is I just put green Loctite in the bolt holes. Okay, just drop a little dab in there. You can be messy, just then take a clean rag and just swipe over it. All the Loctite should still be in the hole. And then you can take your time getting this to mount up. And these little screws to get mounted in. I believe it's a 1.5 mil. Okay. And just like any other, when you're screwing something that's multiple screws, you lightly screw all of them in so you get the proper alignment, and then you start torquing them down in whatever pattern you like. I usually like to go clockwise. And with the last one, I give it a little more tight, a little more torque to make sure it's snug. And 1.5s, like finger snug them. Don't need to over torque them. Let the Loctite do its thing. If some ooze out the other end, you know, just wipe it down. Give it a nice clean look. All right, and then we're gonna need some blue Loctite for these bolts to get the transmission, the front servo mounts mounted to the transmission plate. So I'll just get some blue Loctite on here, fish it through the hole, get my wrench on here, and just start working that one down, get that going. I'll get my second screw just here, dab a Loctite, try not to drop it, and okay, get it in the holder, line it up. Okay. Snug. Screw this all the way in. Snug. All right. The rear mount. Okay, it's offset to the right side of the helicopter. It uses 2mm driver screws, or 2.5mm M2.5s, but use a 2mm driver, and get that mounted in. All right, our servo mounts, cyclic servo mounts are in. Okay,